Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I got to test Annihilape out in the Open Ultra League and it was really good. It did not disappoint. I regained some of the points that I lost in the past 2 weeks. You guys know I have been on a lose streak ever since I hit leaderboards. It's just been downhill for me, but it's okay. It's part of the game. You get some losses, you get some wins. But Annihilape was able to help me recover some of the points that I lost, and I think it has a lot of potential in Ultra League. I didn't see a lot of them, actually, from my opponents. I saw like a couple today, but I am expecting more and more people to use it in the coming few days. But anyways, the team I ended up building around Annihilape is Shadow Drapion on the lead, with Malamar in the back. So Shadow Drapion, Annihilape, and Malamar. Now, the only problem I have with this team is it doesn't really have a solid safe swap. For the most part, I was using Malamar to draw the fairy types out if I suspected that my opponent had a potential fairy type in the back. And the only problem with that is that Malamar doesn't really have any moves that are gonna hit for at least neutral against fairy types. So I'm still trying to figure out a better team around Annihilape, but I did really well with the team that you guys are seeing on the screen right now. I still don't think this is the best team also because it's very squishy. It needs more bulk. Drapion and Annihilape are really good paired together, but I think I need to work on the third Pokemon. Actually, I'm thinking if maybe I do Annihilape lead with Drapion and Registeel in the back, that could work. If I use Registeel as a safe swap to draw ground types out, it could potentially work. Even if I draw out a Talonflame, or if I see a Talonflame on the lead and I swap into Registeel, I think that would be fine because a lot of the Talonflames these days are running Fly and Brave Bird, which means Registeel should be able to perform really well against them. So that was my thought process behind how I built this team. Like I said, it still needs a little bit of work. I am still going to try a bunch of different teams with Annihilape until I find something that works really well in Ultra League. And once I do, I will report back to you guys. But until then, let's just jump into the battles. I don't have that many for you guys today. I did play Ultra League and then I tried out Willpower Cup, and I have a team that worked really well in Willpower Cup. Hopefully I can share it with you guys in my next video, but let's just jump into these battles. Alright, in this match we were up against a Talonflame on the lead, which is a pretty good lead for us. Because I'm running that Aqua Tail on Drapion, I didn't feel like I needed Sludge Bomb on Drapion on this team because I usually need the Sludge Bomb for Virizion. But even up against the fairy types, Drapion with Aqua Tail is going to perform really well, so I'm just running it with Aqua Tail, and I need it to be a counter for Talonflame because my backline doesn't do the best against Talonflame. Anyways, my opponent swapped into a Licky. I was able to align my Annihilape to their Licky, take them out with a close combat, and then their final Pokemon was an Oranguru. I was even able to reach a close combat on the Oranguru, get them really low, and then bring in Malamar, which didn't quite take the Oranguru out, but I was able to come in with my Annihilape, farm them down, and then go for a Rage Fist on the 1 HP Talonflame that was in the back. So we were able to take that win. Moving on to the next battle, we saw a Tentacruel on the lead, but my opponent immediately swapped out into a Primeape. Okay, this is the first Primeape we see, but I decide to swap Annihilape into it, and I don't want to use any shields. So I take the first two Rage Fists. I thought I would survive with a little more HP on the second Rage Fist, but it does so much damage. At least I'm able to take a shield from them with my own Rage Fist. And then I know that they're not going to be able to reach a close combat, and Drapion is one move away from an Aqua Tail. So I bring in Drapion, I go for that Aqua Tail, I'm able to take their Primeape out, and then my opponent brings that Tentacruel back into my Drapion. I was really hoping they would bring their final Pokemon because Malamar is going to be able to take care of this Tentacruel really well, and my opponent's backline, or my opponent's final Pokemon, actually counters my Malamar. So their final Pokemon is going to be a Galarian Moltres. I'm just going to go for these foul plays and try to weaken this as much as I can. I was really hoping they would let me reach a superpower here but I am going to let whatever this is go. It ends up being the Brave Bird. Okay, that means I can go for an Aqua Tail and take them out because they are debuffed. And yeah, they actually let it go. Now I have 1 shield left for my Drapion. Let's see how this goes. Can I win this? I'm going to go for a Crunch. My opponent lets it go. I'm going to shield the Scald here. And I need to reach 2 Aqua Tails to take this out. I go for that first Aqua Tail, but it looks like it was CMP tie. So my opponent is going to be able to get to that Scald before I can get that second Aqua Tail off, and they are going to take that win. GG's to my opponent, but that Moltres was really tough to deal with. Moving on to the next battle, we're going to be up against another Tentacruel on the lead. And this time my opponent is staying in. I actually remember this match. I think I only end up winning because my opponent messes up here. So I'm going to go for a Crunch, and I am going to go ahead and invest the shield for the Scald because it hurts a lot. And they managed to catch my next Crunch on a Mandibuzz. I have to stay in here because my Annihilape and my Malamar are not going to do very well against this Mandibuzz. So I'm just going to try to weaken this as much as I can with the Aqua Tails. Gonna let these aerial aces go. Drapion can handle them pretty well. I should be able to take another one comfortably as well, but the third one is going to KO. Gonna go for another Aqua Tail. I reach another one as well, and I think, nope, my opponent lets it go. Okay, we can let this next aerial ace go, and then my opponent is going to throw the next one immediately. They do not want me to reach another Aqua Tail. Completely understandable, but I can come in with Annihilape and farm them down. So I can have a little bit of energy for the next Pokemon that's going to come in. They bring that Tentacruel back in. I'm going to go for a Rage Fist here, which is not going to be enough to take them out, obviously. It only gets them into the yellow. But I think I have to let this next Scald go. Or they go for a Sledge Wave. Oh, that's where they mess up. They go for a Sledge Wave. If my opponent had gone for a Scald there, they would have won this game. But they went for that Sledge Wave. I was going to, I think I could have farmed them down. But they swap into Talonflame. And I'm actually able to get their Talonflame really low with my Annihilape. And then I bring in Malamar. Now it's going to get really tricky here because my opponent is 1 Incinerate away from another Fly here. And I don't have any shields left. But my opponent really messes up here because they bring in Tentacruel. They could have just stayed in with Talonflame and gone for that second Fly, and then I think Tentacruel would have been able to do enough Poison Jab damage to take our Annihilape out. But GG's to my opponent, we end up taking that win. Now, unfortunately for my opponent here, they are AFK or their game crashed or something, but they're not attacking, and then they end up quitting here. So we get a free win. Yay! I think I don't like it when my opponents lag out. It always feels so unfair getting a free win, but it is what it is. That's just how the game is. Sometimes I give away free wins when my app crashes, so I got it back. Anyways, moving on to the next battle, we are going to be up against a Weezing on the lead. Now, this is the first time I play with the Shadow Drapion against Weezing running Aqua Tail, so we'll have to see how this performs. In this case, I let the Play Rough go, and I should be able to make it to 2 more Aqua Tails before my opponent can make it to another Play Rough. We will live a Brutal Swing from this range, and my opponent goes for a Brutal Swing here, so I make it to a 3rd Aqua Tail. This is going to be enough to KO the Weezing. This is really good. I get that Weezing out of the way, and then my opponent brings in a Drifblim. Okay, I have Malamar for a Drifblim, and my opponent's final Pokemon is a Virizion. I am going to bring Annihilape in against the Virizion. I go for this first Rage Fist, my opponent lets it go, and then I'm recognizing that I actually do not want this Drifblim to farm me down and have a lot of energy for my Malamar. So I actually don't throw the next Rage Fist. I could have CMP tied and won CMP against the Virizion, but I wanted them to take me out. Also, if my opponent stayed in with Virizion, I had the potential to farm them down and have a lot of energy for my Drifblim, but obviously my opponent is not going to let me do that. Now it is going to be my Malamar up against their Drifblim. We have 2 shields left. They also had 2 shields. So we managed to get their shields out of the way. I need to watch for a catch. But it looked like they were going to reach another move on Weezing, so I had to go for a foul play anyways. I didn't go for superpower because I didn't want to debuff myself. And I'm still able to reach another foul play on their Drifblim and then Psy-Wave the Drifblim down and take that win. GG's to our opponent. Moving on to the next battle, we're going to be up against another Galarian Weezing on the lead. We saw how this plays out in the previous match, and I actually figured out that I like Aqua Tail Drapion a lot more than Sludge Bomb Drapion in this matchup, but this time I decided to shield the Play Rough. After shielding the Play Rough, my opponent actually swaps into Licky Licky, and I am going to bring out Annihilape. I took the first Shadow Ball. I wasn't sure how much it will do, but it did a lot more than I expected it to. Obviously, Annihilape is pretty squishy, and that Shadow Ball is going to be super effective. But then my opponent brings in a Typhlosion. They farm my Annihilape down, and this is going to get a little bit tricky because I am going to use my final shield here because I have so much energy on this Drapion. And my opponent went for a Blast Burn, and then they swapped back out into their Weezing. I'm able to land 2 Aqua Tails on Weezing. They are saving their final shield for Typhlosion. We are going to be able to get that final shield out of the way here, and I'm just hoping that my Malamar is going to be able to survive a Blast Burn from this Typhlosion. All I need to do is reach that superpower before my opponent can reach 2 moves. We are going to be able to reach that superpower, and we are able to survive another Incinerate from their Typhlosion, and we're able to take that win. GG's to our opponent. Moving on to the next battle, my opponent is going to have a Core Breaker for me on their team, but this lead is pretty good for me. I think my mistake here was shielding the superpower. I should not have shielded the superpower. Otherwise, I think I would have been able to take care of the Core Breaker. I go ahead, shield the superpower, and then I am going to go for an Aqua Tail here. I get the shield back at least, and I'm going to let this next superpower go. Okay, we reach another Aqua Tail. If my opponent lets this go, it will take them out. Yes, they let it go, and then my opponent has a Tapu Fini in the back. This is not good. I'm going to go for a Crunch, and then I swap out into Annihilape. I need to reach 2 Rage Fists before my opponent can reach 2 Nature's Madness. But at this point, my opponent is ahead by a lot of energy. I'm only able to reach 1, and they let the first one go, and the second one is going to land. I think if I didn't shield Drapion in that first matchup, I might have had a chance here. But my opponent's final Pokemon is going to be a Registeel. They even have a shield left, and we're going to have to take a Zap Cannon here. I probably should have tried to catch the Zap Cannon also on my Drapion, then maybe this would have worked out, but I'm gonna be able to land a superpower here. I tried to go for a catch here, I failed, but my opponent threw their energy anyways because I was gonna be able to reach an Aqua Tail, and if I reached that Aqua Tail, I would have done enough damage to this Registeel to take it out with this superpower, but unfortunately for me, I am going to take a loss here. They're gonna be able to take us out with a Focus Blast, and my opponent is going to win that. Moving on to the next battle, we're going to be up against a Skeledirge on the lead, which is such a good lead for us. Even if I was up against this with my Annihilape or my Malamar, I think I would have done good against this Pokemon. So we are going to let this Disarming Voice go. I was able to land a Crunch on their Skeledirge, but it's not enough to take them out. And then my opponent swaps out into a Goodra. I'm gonna bring Annihilape into Goodra and start going for these Rage Fists to buff my attack. I can take this Aqua Tail pretty easily. It's not gonna do that much damage. We're able to farm them down, and then my opponent's final Pokemon is going to be a Shadow Feraligatr. Okay, at least I have enough energy to go for a Rage Fist and take a shield from them. And because our counters were buffed, I'm able to do enough damage to get them into the yellow, and then I bring in Drapion because they have so much energy and I want to take one of their Hydro Cannons. So my opponent is forced to throw one of the Hydro Cannons onto my Drapion, and then I can bring in Malamar. I shield one of their Hydro Cannons. I let the second one go because I know that their Skeledirge can reach a Disarming Voice, and I go ahead and I shield that. And because we farmed Skeledirge down, I'm gonna be able to reach 2 foul plays against this Feraligatr. One to take their final shield, and the second one is going to land, and we take that win. GG's to our opponent. Moving on to the next match, we are going to be up against a Zygarde on the lead. I hate seeing Zygarde, but I am going to swap into Malamar, and we draw out a Feraligatr. This is okay. I am going to be able to reach 2 foul plays, take a shield from them, and I'm going to let this next move go. It's not quite enough to take us out, but my opponent is not going to let me reach another move. They're going to take us out with the next Hydro Cannon, and then I am going to bring in Drapion here. I should shield this. Yes, good. I shielded the Hydro Cannon. I'm able to farm their Feraligatr down, and then my opponent brings that Zygarde back in. Okay, I'm going to go for a Crunch, weaken them, and then I will swap into my Annihilape, but my opponent has a Confusion Cresselia in the back. So my opponent is, first of all, they're obviously going to outbulk my team, which is not that bulky. And second, they are going to sort of hard counter us because they had the ground type on my Drapion, and then they had the Cresselia, the Confusion Cresselia, on my fighter. So this was a really tough battle for me. And then here, actually, I might have had a chance to win this if they let this Aqua Tail go. But no, I don't think I could have won this. Yeah, I need 2 crunches to take this out. I think 2 crunches wouldn't have even been enough to take that Zygarde out. But my opponent is going to win that. If you guys have Zygarde, I am so jealous. But that is going to be a 3-2, another positive set with Annihilape. Anyways, guys, that is going to bring us to the end of the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like my content, please consider subscribing. Maybe leave a like, it helps me out so much. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye-bye.